Welcome to Newly Invested, the podcast that's all about the real, sometimes raw journey of real estate investing. I'm your host, Judith Tait, bringing you conversations from the trenches of the investment landscape where we celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and unlock the secrets to successful property investing. Whether you're a novice investor seeking tips and guidance or a seasoned pro eager to share your story, you've come to the right place. Let's get started and delve into the exciting world of real estate investing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Newly Invested. I'm your host, Judith Tait. And today we are joined by the lovely Alla Lady Gina. And Alla is an executive director of the Canadian Real Estate Women's Association. And she stands out as a force for female empowerment in real estate. Welcome, Alla.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And I'm just honored to have you here on the show. So I'm just going to introduce you even further because you've got such a beautiful bio here. So in addition to being the executive director of Canadian Real Estate Women Association, also known as CREWA, so CREWA, if you've seen it online, alongside Vladimir Ladygina, her husband and business partner, she co-leads Horizon Capital Real Estate Group, focusing on apartment investments in Southern Ontario. Their collaborative efforts have propelled Horizon Capital into the spotlight for strategic investment excellence. Alla's career also includes a medical doctor's degree and 7 years of experience in public health in Canada, providing her with a unique, analytical, and empathetic approach to real estate investing. This blend of healthcare, insight, and real estate component allows Alla to navigate investment complexities with precision. Her leadership roles at CREWA and Horizon Capital demonstrate her commitment to elevating women's roles in real estate, combining expertise and passion to drive financial independence and achievement in the Canadian real estate sector. That's great. Great bio.
That was beautiful. I could listen to that forever.
Well, how does that feel being all of that?
It sounds a little bit unreal because when you just do it day by day in small steps, you don't realize to what that builds up. Sometimes you focus too much on something what didn't work or something you still need to achieve. And then when you look back and when you decide to maybe celebrate or someone like you put that into words, then it really makes you think like, yeah, there is quite a lot achieved.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's so important to recognize the fact that you've achieved so much. And just from the little that I know of you, like we met, oh boy, probably, I don't know, a few months ago. And I just know, I was like, I really want to get to know this woman. Like she's doing some good things. So that energy, I just felt it.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. One woman at a time. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so how long have you been a real estate investor and are you doing it full-time, part-time? Tell us about your journey.
So I started, I should say, in 2015, accidentally, just trying to get some certainty in the future and investing in the first BRRRR, which we didn't know was a first BRRRR at that time. And then I think only in 2020, we became more of a business owners in that sense. We owned several properties by that time. And I went full-time last year. So I left my job, my 9 to 5 with the municipality, very safe and desirable job by many, but zero regrets. Yeah. I still miss my paycheck. Universe, I miss my paycheck.
Well, that's totally understandable because doing that myself, like going from working a full-time secure career to being an entrepreneur, business owner, it's not easy. And it's definitely not something that everyone can do. There's a certain element of risk and, it's just a matter of how much risk are you willing to take and, how much do you really believe in yourself and your vision? So I commend you for doing that because that's, I know personally, it's not easy to do.
No, it's not easy to do. And I don't recommend to someone who has a question, should I quit or should I not? If it's still a question, don't.
Exactly. Good, good advice. So, what was that transition like for you?
From living 9 to 5.
Yeah.
In some sense, it was very deliberating. It was like finally I was doing what was right. Um,
Hmm.
but on the other hand, I miss what I actually was doing there because I genuinely love public health. I was doing public health for 7 years in Canada as a public health nurse, and my patients could be a school or a casino or OPG, Ontario Public Generation, or larger community like that. And yeah, that's what I miss. Like I do miss my paycheck, but I also miss that feeling of connection with larger communities. They gave me huge understanding of how communities work, how you approach not just a particular person with a very customized approach, but how you take care of very large and pretty much unknown general patient, which is actually like 100 of patients. So in that sense, I miss that component. And I still think that I'm in transition and somehow I'm getting back to that. And I'm giving back with CREWA when I do something more consistent. And also with Horizon Capital, when we do something and we transform communities and we bring back to it and we think about more of social determinants of health, when we provide safe housing, when our capital and money investors, when they give money to us, they actually invest in their local communities, just like we were talking about investing in real estate. But when we invest in real estate, we bring our money to US, while when we invest in local communities, in local apartment buildings, we provide that important component of health for local Canadians. And that's what I truly love. That's why
Yeah.
I'm still in transition. That's how I try to connect those pieces. And that's why I think that this is the perfect place and time for me to tie all those pieces in one. Because
Yeah.
just doing that for money, well, I'm dreaming about that time when I'll be just a passive investor. I don't know if it's going to happen or I will be always restless and doing something myself. But also, other than just money, it also gives you a huge reward that you are transforming the communities. So in that
Well,
sense, I think I'm still in transition.
yeah. Well, that's good. Well, it sounds like you've been able to um, use a lot of your skills from working in public health and transfer those to investing in real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of similarities. Well, when we often hear when people say health is a new wealth, wealth is a new health, and all in the middle. And public health is basically investment. It's the same investment concept that you have to think in advance proactively and invest where it's needed. And we actually have numbers in public health that if you invest $1 to prevent a disease, you save in healthcare $7. So this is a proven stats. I think it was coming from Australia, but we have similar numbers in Canada as well. Same idea with investing. It's much better to invest today $1 to get $10 later. Because usually in real estate in our project, we have double-digit returns. So you can think 10% and more annually. So it's kind of similar idea that you need to
Mhm.
proactively think about a plan, invest in the beginning, and then you actually making money by thinking proactively and taking action early. Think about taking care of like brushing your teeth. To buy a toothbrush and a paste is much cheaper than go and treat to get any treatment with a doctor, right? With a dentist. So same idea with anything. Like there is way more complex strategies used in public health.
Yeah.
And despite what people think in Canada, public health does amazing job in Canada. It's truly leading in many areas in the world. And I love what they do. I love what I did. And many concepts can be applied to to investments. That's why the transition was much more easier for me, because when people hear, oh, nursing, they think hospitals, patients, which is great
Yeah.
too, but it's more about paying your bills, which were not paid before.
Yeah.
And investment is more like public health.
Okay. I love it. So, are you currently working on any projects, or do you have any in strategies that you're applying your skills from working in public health to? Like anything specifically that you can share with us?
Well, the first that comes to my mind is our building in Peterborough, because we are just finishing the renovation of one of the units, and it's a multi family building. It's a smaller, but I think I know it's 4 units, and so one of the units was we inherited. Let me put it in the way so that LTB doesn't go after me.
Okay.
Okay. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
So once it got vacated after 18 months of ongoing resistance and the LTB hearings, it was finally vacated because the tenant was a danger for all other tenants due to the hoarding, which was 9 on the scale from 1 to 10.
Mm.
And the fire chief was very supportive because it was truly a danger for all other 3 tenants. And now when everything was cleaned and almost fully renovated, everything's beautiful and nice, and we have the renovation is not finished yet, but we have lots of interest already from prospective tenants. And you can see that many families are applying with kids, with students who want to live there. And it's truly about transforming, and the curb appeal of the building changed. And you can see how the whole community changes and how particular lives of those people changes. And by the way, the person who was hoarding, it turned out that he needs a lot of mental help. And during the hearings, he also was saying that he is applying to get a mental health support from the government. That is actually what he truly needed.
Mm.
Even though his apartment was subsidized by the system, by the government, it's not really what he really needed. He needed more support. He needed mental health support. He needed way more than just apartment where he actually didn't live. So he was living somewhere else. He was not utilizing the money from the government the way he should. So in this example, you can see how it's not about real estate. It's not really about just turning over the units and painting them white. It was about making sure that the money from the government go where they should go, that the person who needs help gets the actual help and not just forgotten, forgotten and
Yeah.
just left there with no attention. And then that the unit which already existing is providing housing and not just being used as a storage, and now is going to be used by a young family where young Canadians are going to grow and get the same values as they should, and not just be growing in, say, housing in rooming houses. So I can see that plus in addition to that, during the renovations and everything, we are able to provide some work opportunities for work during this recession time when we don't want unemployment to go too high, right? So it's a whole thing when investors are turning over the buildings, even in cases when they're not building new units. It's a whole chain of issues that actually moving ahead. Like if you want to think in GDP, think in GDP, and that'll show you too that real estate is moving the whole society with this. It's not the only
Yeah.
one factor, but it's a huge factor that moves the whole thing, the whole economy, right? We don't want real estate to freeze. And then in the end of the day, it will go with so many social determinants of health: housing, income, employment, education, healthcare. It all going to be in one. Yeah.
That's so powerful. Just everything you described there. It just shows that as a real estate investor, it's not just about, buying and selling properties. Like you
Absolutely not. That's the
actually,
last. Yeah.
yeah. And you're impacting lives.
That's
Now,
exactly it. Yeah. And it takes a lot of knowledge and
yes,
balance between building your business and not becoming too emotional, but also staying a person
yes,
and understanding who's actually your tenants, how you can actually get that win-win. It's
yeah.
essential. I tried at some point to distance myself a little bit too far,
Hmm.
and it was not where I found myself happy.
Hmm.
Only for the reason because at some point you start to feel like a machine, and you start feeling detached. And and sometimes what truly makes your day when you see your tenants, sometimes they don't even know that I'm the landlord, but you see them and you see how they live happy lives there. Well, as much as it depends on the unit, right? And on the quality of
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
So
that's so nice. So do
yeah,
you
but you
find
have to,
that?
yeah, but you have to stay logical, because if you go too deep in that emotional level, the
Uh-huh.
business will not grow. Yeah, you have to base everything on numbers and on logic too.
Oh, for sure. Do you find that it's easier to keep your tenants happy and to find those good tenants just by having like that personal relationship, or not even a personal relationship, but just a familiar relationship with your tenants. So they see you all the time. Like they probably think that you're what, the property manager as opposed to the owner.
No, no, I'm just usually not in contact with them because we have property managers on 95% of our units.
Oh, okay.
So they just like, I wouldn't say that I'm not a landlord. Like if they do see me and if they do ask me, I still probably will say that I'm the landlord. It's just that we don't really interact too much.
Hmm.
And that makes my job easier. That makes their life easier because we have
Hmm.
amazing property managers.
Hmm.
And whenever we get requests, we try our best to review that to see what does make sense. And then if something does not make sense, to communicate that properly to tenants and explain why that does not make sense right now, or what are the options, or what we can be doing in this scenario. So I think it's very different to be friends with your tenants and to
Hmm.
be a good landlord.
Hmm.
So it is business. And
Yeah.
what I can say that this strategy works, and with those tenants who were not inherited and those whom we chose ourselves, and we're not too picky, we just do what is supposed to be done by law, and basically we just do our due diligence. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that we're just cherry picking the tenants. That's why we're so good. I'm
Yeah.
saying that we're doing fair job choose selecting the tenants, and with those whom we select, we have basically usually, knock on wood, no problems.
Okay.
And but the problems do come with those tenants who are inherited. And we have
Oh,
different
I see.
stories, and some of those tenants are just someone who will take everything they have for granted. And some
Hmm.
of them think that if they were in the house for 10 years or longer, then the house basically belongs to them, which I think is very unfair for the landlords in Ontario. But I also can say that persistence and good paralegals and doing everything by law still works. It's just making it harder for landlords and for good tenants, because landlords, in the end of the day, will have to put the cost of the risks, and good tenants will be taking a part of it. The larger portion
Yes.
will be paid by landlords and
Hmm.
sometimes government too. But in the end of the day, it will all go to good tenants, to
Hmm.
landlords, and to taxpayers, which I think is very not fair. Something has to be done with LTB in Ontario for sure.
Okay, so it's as far as like placing good tenants in your units, you leave that up to your property management company, right? I would I would think. Or do you share that responsibility in selecting them?
Sometimes when I see that there is some problems or anything, I can jump in myself.
Hmm.
And just because I have more authority choosing tenants, making more non-standard decisions, sometimes I place them myself.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
But this would be more of an exception. This is not something which I planned for, just like
Yeah.
anything else in that sense. Same with renovation. I can do the backsplash myself, and but that doesn't mean that I
Mm.
planned for that. So
Yeah.
if there is something exceptional and I feel that I have that resource to do that, I'll do, but it's not something that I planned for. So,
Okay.
but sometimes you need to roll up your sleeves. Or if
Yeah.
or if there is, for example, we had hosted many refugees from Ukraine and Russia in the past couple of years. And this is also another example when my property management cannot make that decision because that goes against the guidelines. While I am
Okay.
having the Russian Ukrainian background, I can first have more authority to make the decision. Plus, I just have naturally more knowledge from like where they're
Hmm.
coming from, what do they say, how does it resonate with what I know about the situation. So, I mean, back there, and that allows me to place a really good tenants in those units. By now, majority of them luckily found another places because we're doing that with either good discount or some of them for free. So by now they all are spread now either into the country or somewhere else in GTA. But that was another example how I do that. And I was doing selecting tenants for years before we were hiring property managers. That was a
Yeah.
huge step and really was such a good help. It was a lot of help to have property managers.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but when it's needed, I do it myself.
So, to ensure that you have good tenants, do you like how do you vet your property managers, or how do you decide which company is the best to work with in order to place the tenants that you want in your units?
Well, I would say that those are two different things though, because it depends really on the market where you're working. Because if you go to tertiary markets and far, their procedures, their tenant profile, and the software they work with is all totally different. Here in
Hmm.
Toronto, they all used to checking every single comma on the document and for
Yeah.
example using Buildium for the reports and all the procedures are more streamlined and they have SOPs and everything is way more familiar and similar between different property management companies. While if you go far more deep into the country or even Ontario, people still trust each other. They don't use any software. They just send you reports in Excel.
Oh.
They pretty much know half of the people in the city or in the town, and they just rely heavily on their network. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad property management company. So if you're choosing someone in Toronto, then you have a whole spread of those criteria that you have to meet. Otherwise, don't even. While back there, it's just slightly different. But my recommendation is still make sure that your property managements are checking credit checks because
Mm,
you'd be surprised how many property managers don't check credit checks. Sorry, credit scores. Yeah, they don't do checks. They don't check the scores.
yeah. Wow.
I know.
That's that's pretty important when you're just doing like your due diligence in any aspect of real estate. So
Well,
what?
they do. But for example, they say yes, I checked the credit score. Credit score is good, and then you ask, what website do you use for that? And they say, oh no, they brought their own document.
Oh.
So for them, that's because they are more trusting each other. We can say
Yeah.
that they're more naive, but at the same time,
Mm,
they're lucky to be living in the environment where people are not taking advantage. And fraud
hmm.
is way less common than we have it in GTA. So my suggestion is make
Yeah.
sure that you provide your property management with a clear guideline that how you see them checking your tenants, how you see them checking their credit score. Don't even mention something else. If they brought you a reference from a job, then don't call the number on the reference. Try to find that number and Google it. like things like small things like that. So don't be
Yeah.
trusting. And the easiest way is to create your own SOP, those procedures that you want them to follow, and make sure that the property management is online with this and are going to follow your procedure. Don't just rely on, don't think that you hired them and then they're going to save you. So when you
Hmm.
hire someone, you just put the ball up in the air, and if you don't follow up, guess where the ball is going to come? It's not going to come on the head of your property management. It's going to come on your head, just like anything else you outsource.
Yes. So communication, setting clear guidelines, expectations, that sounds like it's key. And of course, like you want to, connect with property management companies that are going to do that. And they're going to respect your guidelines, follow the procedures.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So what would be your most crucial due diligence piece of advice for investors or for someone new in investing?
When they're doing that themselves,
Yeah, like if they're just starting out their investment journey and they want to buy their first property, say it's like a 10 unit building.
that's a good first property. Well, if this is their first ever,
Yeah.
well, that's good. Well, my first question, that is this remote or is this close to where they live?
Oh, good question. Good question. Okay, let's do both. Let's start with close to where you live, so local.
So you mean for acquisition or for management?
Um, for acquisition. Yeah. Let's go with that.
Um, Check all the numbers. Check all the numbers, get all the numbers from the city, get all the
Oh,
numbers from
okay.
the first hand, because oftentimes, and that's for the due diligence process, because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes don't get high when you see VTB 80%, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that the numbers that they're selling you are actually the true numbers you're going to work with after closing. Oftentimes, they forget to add a lot of expenses onto the spreadsheet. They forget to subtract multiple fees from NOI, and that significantly reduces the actual value of the building. And
Mm.
sometimes it's still okay to proceed with the purchase, but you just don't want to pay for what is not there yet. It's okay to add, say, up to
Yes.
30%, 30% maybe of the building for the potential, but you need to make sure that the market is the right market, that you will be able to get that appreciation. And I don't want to discourage, but if it's your very first one, go either with a partner who have done that before, with partners who have done that before, or maybe try something maybe smaller. And also,
Yeah.
if this is your first one, if it's 10 unit, and if that is remote, maybe that's a little bit too complex.
Yeah.
So don't think about this. While I'm not trying to say dream smaller, but I'm also saying don't think that this is your last deal ever. Every deal has
Mm-hmm.
a particular return, and return on your investment also applies to return on your investment of time and return on your investment of stress. Just like flips, sometimes it makes way more sense to do two simple flips rather than
Mm-hmm.
trying to do your first flip, which is very complex, say, I don't know, after fire or with multiple permits or something which is way beyond what can keep you in a good mindset and a good state of mind when you're going, without that feeling of, it's good to have some panic, and probably you still will have some panic on that path, but when
Yeah.
it's too much, then after that first one you may be stuck there for way longer than if you decided to go with something smaller.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And I threw out that example of a 10 unit building because I remember when I was earlier in my investing journey, which was like a year ago. I remember hearing about someone who was new to investing and their first investment was, maybe it wasn't 10 units. I think it was like 8 or 9 or something like that. And I thought, oh my goodness, like that's big, that's huge. But then someone said, well, it's, if you can do like, 3 units, you can do like 8 or 9 units, it's almost the same thing. And I thought, really? Like, I don't know. I know for me personally, I want to start with something smaller, but then it probably just comes back to your confidence level,
Your
probably who you
capacity.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who you know how much coaching or support you have, who's in your network.
Yeah. And when
So,
it's your first one, sometimes you're just not ready. Sometimes you overthink
mhm,
lots of things, and you sometimes take way more time to go through simple situations. It's like a baby. When you have the
yeah,
first one, you don't know where to run and what to do if it sneezes.
yeah,
And you don't know whom to call and what's going to happen and what this and what's that. What if the teeth are appearing 4 months later than they should you call emergency or what you should do? When it's your second, it's it's a totally different story.
yeah, true.
And when it's your second, and I don't have that experience, but I assume that when it's your fourth, it's very similar with your second because you've been through that, you know that. There is
Yeah.
still a chance that something still may go not the ordinary way. Even
Hmm.
if it's your 16th child, something may go at any moment. You still need to be fully alert and still need to pay all your attention. The younger the
Hmm.
baby, the more attention. Sometimes all your attention you have, but then all your focus. But the first one is always very special because you are not at that capacity yet.
Yeah.
And same with businesses, same with buildings. From the acquisition, think about the acquisition as that what's that conception? What's the word? And then you go through that pregnancy with the due diligence, and then the baby is born. You're closing, and then during this year or more, you are going through those first baby steps with the building. You're nurturing that for constantly. You keep the focus on it constantly. That's what active investor is doing. This is not a time to dream about passive investment and how smooth everything was for someone else with their building, with their first deal on Instagram.
Mm, yeah.
Don't compare
I,
your insights with someone else's Instagram.
yes, that is so true. We have this like there's FOMO, so much FOMO out there, fear of missing out. Like, oh my goodness, this person's doing that and I've only accomplished this much and it's so real. So has that ever affected you?
Oh, I think that would be about the 2021. That was the year of madness when
Yeah.
everyone who bought something was a millionaire next day. And that gave, and that was the moment when rates, that actually was the year when rates should have gone up, but they didn't.
Mm,
So because of that super low rates and that craziness, that FOMO was so real. I think it affected all of us
yeah.
because literally, if you didn't buy, you lose. And since then, though, I think that those still who bought that year still are in a good position. Unless
Hmm.
they were recklessly buying just whatever, which we also saw, or
Hmm.
unless they were stocking on too many properties uh, in markets that don't necessarily have that infrastructure, and there was no really support for appreciation. Yes, those investors were hurt,
Yeah.
but or over leveraged if they were too hungry for growth. But yeah, when you compare with that story, when everyone bought that, then yes, you
Yeah.
have that fear of missing out. But again, comparing with babies, don't compare who raised how many babies when they're just born. Okay,
Yeah.
you need to raise them first, and you need to make sure that you are raising them with everything you can.
Yeah.
You're giving them all your attention you should be giving them. I mean, it's not necessarily your 100% responsibility who they are in the end. Don't have that grandeur idea that you are 100% defining what the babies or the properties are going to be in the end, because there are so
Yes.
many moving pieces of that puzzle: a market,
Mhm.
tenants, infrastructure, jobs, um, all those things. But at the
Yeah.
same time, give them all that attention. Yeah, and
Oh,
count don't count who gave birth to how many kids until they are born, because
yeah.
some people just collect numbers with babies or with properties and just show them on Instagram. So be very careful when you compare yourself with someone else with someone else's pictures online
Yes.
or at social network events. I love social network events, but
Uh-huh.
I use them as an inspiration, as an entry
Hmm.
point to know someone better. But don't do your due diligence. I always say that. In CREWA, we
Yes.
also have a big disclaimer that even in our room, don't use your gender as an excuse to not do your due diligence.
Yes. That's good. Okay, so speaking of social events, tell us a bit about CREWA or CREA.
Oh, CREWA is my love for sure. And I'm so happy to see that this love over the year was so contagious and now is loved by so many other women and groups and resources and men. And
Yeah.
we had a really big and surprisingly big and great event on March 8th. And
Hmm.
we now know that it's going to be our tradition to do the International Women's Day at CREWA. We had multiple leaders and representatives from larger groups of women in Canada. And
Nice.
not all of them, because it was a little bit spontaneous. And unlike our conference, which is in October and the date is set, this one was growing just naturally because I feel like it was just a good timing and good cause. And yeah, we had Tim Story from US. He's a coach of Oprah Winfrey and Robert
Oh,
Downey Jr. and Charlie Sheen and some other celebrities. So so yeah, that the, the the word is spread that CREWA is the Canadian Real Estate Women Association, and that long name, which really reflects who we are. We are a community of communities. Um, and lots of
is it just
support.
for women only?
Oh gosh, no, it's not for women only. It is for women. And men always present in the room, either as a speaker or in the audience. And we truly believe that there is no way to define who is a new woman, a modern woman, without a man in the room. And
Oh,
it's not only for women as them as a center um, of any event, right? It's also to think about women, how to be a better mom, how to raise an entrepreneur, how to naturally make sure that your child is interested in investing, financial literacy, how to help them build that connection. I mean, kids, how to think about your own mom and how your mom influenced that maybe. Because if you are here today the way you are, maybe your mom had a role in that. So how you can be supporting that, what are the ways, or even like what are the ways to maybe think about family trust, how to make that transition and when to sell your business in real estate, because it's important to understand that if you build a big business, it doesn't mean that your kids will want to or have
yeah.
to continue that. So kids have to be educated how to inherit that properly, how to sell that properly, or how to live with an idea that if they don't want to inherit your business, that you're going to pass that to someone else or sell it. So very important pieces. And of course, some topics that are only discussed within women's circle, but in CREWA, we try not to bring them on stage. We either keep them on our online masterminds, or we also have right now introduced this year a peer mentorship program. Finally, we're working with that, and we receive phenomenal feedback. This is when our students, our members, they're both simultaneously they're students and mentors. They're mentors and mentees. So they
Okay.
learn to grow their mindset, and they learn about real estate as well. And also they learn how to be a mentee, because we believe that you can only receive if you are willing to give.
Yes.
And that also comes with the money. You only will be able to get the return if you initially planted the seed. So same with the attention, same with the knowledge. If you're not willing to be a mentor and you do think that you don't have enough time, that means that you will be having a huge roadblock when you're looking for a mentor yourself, because you will be
Hmm.
having difficulties with understanding what you can give them, what a mentor is looking for in a mentee. So
Hmm.
by circling this back, it's really giving another level to the mentors and mentees. It's a long road. It
Yeah.
takes it's a little bit unusual concept, but that's also again going back to my public health background. Whenever we do something, we need to make sure that this is sustainable. And when we step
Yes.
back, the system will continue to work without us. The last thing I want to do is to tie everything to myself and make sure that
Right.
nothing works without me. So on the contrary,
Right.
I wanted everything to work without myself. That's why my name is always a little bit on the background. So
Oh, I
that
love it. That's so important. Things have to be able to run without you. You want to be able to
always
leave a legacy, right?
systems.
Yes. Systems and processes. Okay. So, what resources would you recommend to someone just starting out in real estate investing? And that can be books, places to network, education.
Mm, just to a random person, just
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah. Someone just new, or they're thinking about it like, Ella, I want to start investing in real estate. I'm not sure if I want to do active or passive. I'm not sure where I want to invest. If there's any resources or anything that you used in your
So
journey.
it would really depend on how much time you have, how much money you have, and what
Mm,
is your risk tolerance. So if you're
okay.
just starting and you're very careful, then for sure I would recommend books. There is a lot of them from, I don't know, say Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, he comes up a lot.
yeah, Brandon Turner, Quentin
Uh-huh.
D'Souza have lots of books too. Um, podcasts are second step, an easy way to network with people without the need to step out of your comfort zone. That's
Yeah.
why I love podcasts. I recently heard a podcast where my general contractor, was on a podcast with one of the realtors from Jura Maria, by the way. And I
Okay.
enjoyed that so much. I enjoyed that so much because when else I would be able to hear their conversation, which lasted for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love podcasts, especially those who have video.
Yeah.
And if you're more ready to get into that, to invest more time and effort, then go to networking events
Yeah.
because nothing will tell you more about other people than how they look and how they feel in real life.
Yes. Oh, that's
And
good.
then, and then if you have even more than that, jump into the first project as soon as you can. Because if you just keep tapping, like if you just keep looking around and trying to outsmart the system and find the best way, the best market, the best asset class and everything, you may be just wasting your time and not just be honest with yourself that you're just procrastinating.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. And it's really important to be honest with yourself because I know people who were thinking about investing in real estate and reading and listening to podcasts for years, and they're still sitting on their precious $150,000 and still doing nothing. And guess what?
Yeah.
Inflation ate a big portion of that money. Don't even mention where the prices went. Even after the decrease in prices, they're still so high. They're still much higher than that time when they could have bought something.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you honestly say yourself that you're not just ready yet, go with someone who does something them actively and say, hey, this is my money. Let's partner up. I bet there will be some people who want to do that, and they will
Yes.
multiply that money for you over the, I don't know if it's a short term, maybe that's just a money loan, or maybe that's equity, whichever works for you. But just be honest with yourself. And if
Hmm.
you're not ready to jump in, don't try to learn everything in just 1 year.
Yes.
Or
That's
another
such good
or another
advice.
example with women, if you're expecting a baby and you're trying to jump into your first building when your husband is working full time and trying to support you while you have young babies, and then this is remote, or on the contrary, you're planning to do some work yourself, and then this and that and that, and then complexity grows so fast and so high, then probably after that one deal you will be either burnout, or you will not be able to finish on time and will lose lots of money, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you will accomplish all of those, but the first year of your baby will be gone, you will never get it back.
Yes, I agree.
So with women, and I say that as a mom of 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
And by planning in advance, I still think that I could have spent a little bit more time with kids. But on the other hand, I think that I spent with them exactly what I wanted to spend with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's another important thing, to define how much time you exactly want to spend with kids, just like with properties. How much
Mm-hmm.
time you want to spend with your properties?
Yeah.
Once you honestly gave yourself those answers, then try to bring the reality to that level, whichever that is. But you're the only one who knows that.
Yeah.
And for different people, very different strategies work. And again, in our peer mentorship, I see that many people, they have very similar dreams, wishes, goals. But once we go to visualization of those, it's always different. So everyone
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, I want a lot of money. I want it to be passive and I want to spend time with my kids." But in fact, when you go to visualization of that, the description is actually very different. And that's the moment when you have to be super honest with yourself. And it's not just about universe and magic. It's actually about being very efficient with the goal settings.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of
Wow.
going very deep, but that's how I find that
Yeah.
that's efficient.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a very deep topic. So we'll have to do this again another time. We could focus specifically on that because that's mindset is everything. Mindset, setting goals, having a vision, like that's huge
Yeah, and
for anything.
listening to your own voice.
Hmm. Yes, your
Ideally every
intuition
quarter.
every quarter. Yeah.
Every quarter.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to share about your journey or anything going on with CREWA? Anything, any events coming up, any offers you have?
So CREWA is going to be working for members over during the summer as well. I know we're kind of far from summer, but it's also super close.
Yeah.
And we do have monthly events. This one is probably going to be just for members. We're introducing something slightly different for them. I don't know where the podcast is actually airing, but the big one, which really needs attention of all women and men too, is October the 5th. It's our
Okay.
annual conference
Oh,
when we're celebrating again and educating on the topic of real estate and women. And what we always try to do, we try to bring on stage as many reps of women's groups.
okay.
So that one is big, and
Okay.
that one's going to be a celebration. Other than those, I encourage everyone to choose. If you're a woman, choose a women's group. If you're a man or a woman, choose something specific for your market or for your asset class, but make sure that you are somehow connected with the network,
Yes.
especially during challenging times, and not only because it's much better when you are surrounded by like-minded people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. All right. That's awesome. So now it's time to put you on the hot seat. Gonna ask you some fun questions about yourself.
All right.
Okay. So share a surprising fact about yourself that no one knows.
Mm.
Or that
That my
most people don't know.
my name is not Gina is a surprising factor for everyone I meet after people meet me online. They think that my name is truly Gina and my name is Alla. And for a good
Oh,
portion of my life, I was not Lady Gina. I had different last name, right? Because I got this last name only when I got married, and I became Lady Gina. So it's still surprising for how many people it is a surprise that my name is Alla and not Gina. Well,
okay.
another fun fact though, with when I was a kid, I was orange, like very red haired kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's
Yeah,
hard
that is
it's hard to
surprising.
say now, but
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Things change, eh?
Yeah, but soul is still the same, wild red-haired girl.
Yeah. Okay. Same on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were given the chance to start a dream project today with unlimited resources, what would it be?
It would be CREWA. I would do miracle where if I have unlimited resources with CREWA. We would go big.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's good.
And that would
Yeah.
be
Well,
we would be working more and more with youth. We
okay.
do
Oh,
right now
nice.
offer up to 100% discount whenever we have kids or youth. Well, with kids, almost always, with youth up to 23 years old. Because I do believe that the younger we catch them, the happier our society will be.
Oh, I agree 100%. That's so good. I can see you getting there. You guys are going to get
Yeah,
there
me
because you're doing
too.
some great things. Yeah, for sure.
I have a big
All right.
vision. I have a big
Yeah.
vision, but you mentioned unlimited resources.
Yes. Oh no, for sure. I can see it happening. What's one piece of advice if you could go back in time? What's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
It's so funny though, everything I was dreaming about when I was 16, it became true and even be well
Wow.
beyond. I could not even imagine. And trust me, I was brave when I was dreaming at 16.
Wow.
So
Huh.
thinking about that, I probably would just reinforce that you can do anything. You
Yeah.
can do anything. Don't stop. Oh, actually, I can come up with something. You know what? So when I was growing, there was a big, big emphasis that money is not, well, there were many limiting beliefs about money
Hmm.
that you can be smart or rich, you can be happy and genuine or rich or like always or. So
Mm.
I would just tell myself sooner that money is just a magnifying glass for anything what is already in your life and in your soul.
Yes.
So don't it's not either or. So
Huh.
if you have something good and you have good thoughts and good ideas, money will just multiply that. But if you are
Hmm.
using money just as a source to keep comparing yourselves to others and you're buying things to impress others, even if you don't like those things or those people, then money will be destroying you and your happiness. So probably I would be working on those. I would give that one advice about money, that it's money is not evil.
Mm.
Money is just a
That's good.
magnifying glass. So
That's perfect. I love it. Great words of advice.
thank you.
So where can people find you?
The best way is always on Instagram. If it's that for just advice or chat, I always chat with people. That's actually how over the years I started mentoring people very slowly. And I didn't realize I was in denial that I was mentoring people because it was just chat from
Right.
here, like every once and often. And then I saw that they were growing. So if you do need an advice and you just want to chat or send me a DM, just use Instagram. But if it's for work or investment opportunities or just to see what we're doing in Horizon Capital, then it will be Alla at horizoncapitalrealestate.com.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Email for
much,
work,
Alla.
social media for social connections.
That's great. And I'm going to put all of that in the show notes too.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
yes, for sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. That was my pleasure.
Great. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing. And that brings us to the end of another enlightening episode of Newly Invested. A huge thank you to our guest and to all of you for tuning in. Remember that investing in real estate is a journey filled with highs and lows, but the key is to keep learning, keep investing, and keep growing. If you want to stay updated with our latest episodes, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate it if you could leave us a review. This is your host, Judith Tait, signing off, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing! The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast. The information shared in the podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or professional advice.